Welcome to the Old Brother Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Smith. Alongside me, as always, my brother from the same mother, Mike Smith.
Good to see you, Dan.
It is Halloween Fest 2024 at the Old Brother
Woo.
Podcast. Look at this, baby. Look at that. It's branded for your enjoyment. Halloween Fest. We're back. If you couldn't tell by the mugs, you can tell by the shirts. What do you got? A new shirt? And Mike's got a new Old Brother shirt.
I thought, what's scarier than the original Old Brother T-shirt?
Oh, that's vintage. That's vintage. You can't find that. You maybe find that at a
No.
flea market somewhere, but yeah.
Maybe in Hong Kong.
But I love. Okay, first of all, look at the posters Mike is sporting tonight.
Brand
So
new stuff here.
let's see what you've got. You've got Halloween, the original,
Mm-hmm.
and then in the middle we've got. Is that H2?
I have to poop it up a bit.
Is that
But
from
yeah,
Halloween
that's
2?
Halloween 2.
Beautiful. That's a
And
beautiful
then-
shot. And then we've got Friday the 13th, of course.
Correct.
Give it up there. And of course, I'm sporting my
The new
2018
Halloween,
version of Michael
which
Myers.
was a good version.
But you notice I've got tributes back there to Camp Crystal Lake, and
Love it. Love
They've got all
seeing
kinds of-
Shadow up there.
yeah, I've got my every 4K, of course, Halloween on the shelf.
Iteration.
And I've got I've got my Freddy's and my I don't know which side I'm on, but I did have to keep Shadow in the mix because this is her
Gotta have
month. This is
Shadow.
her season.
That's
You know?
right. Right.
And what do they say, Mike? They say, now you remember dad used to work in one of his retirement jobs. He worked at the post office. Remember that?
I was not here, but I do
You-
remember.
Yeah, he was working there as a carrier and would deliver the mail. And then I would move back home for a time and got a gig working with him. So
yeah.
we would meet up at lunch and go to the pizza shop and have a slice and all of that. And what is the motto of the post office? Like nor sleet, nor rain, or freezing, whatever
Right.
the hell it is, right? We still
Right.
deliver the mail. We still bring you the Yo Brother podcast. I don't care if there's a hurricane coming. I don't care if I've been sick for the last 6 days. We're bringing it to you.
You got a
So-
hurricane bearing down on you as we speak.
Hence the lightning bolts. But there was nothing that was going to prevent us from kicking off Halloween Fest.
Fest.
And I can't think. Now, we've got a great lineup this Halloween Fest 2024. I think it's a little bit of
Eventually,
everything.
yes.
It's a little bit of everything for everyone, right?
Yeah.
We're
Oh,
trying
yeah.
to make sure we get a little classic in there, some new stuff, things we certainly haven't seen before. But I'm going to have you kick us off here because this episode is going to be devoted to Terrifier, which is Damien Leone's really first feature
Not to
film.
be confused with Sergio Leone.
No, he may have been influenced by him and like those films, but this is not a spaghetti western by any stretch of the
No.
imagination. So, go ahead, Mike. Can you set this up for us?
I can't because there is
Oh, you
no
can't?
setup.
Okay.
The movie is so bad. This is the
Hmm.
worst horror movie I've ever seen.
Wow. I thought
I
you
could-
might come out like this.
I could sit through Halloween 3, Halloween 6, rotating them for days with a big smile on my face. And people would say, "How can you stand it?" And I'd say, "Because I saw the Terrifier." And you know what they'd say? They'd say, "Oh, Art the Clown. Whoa. Yeah, I get it. Honey, want to watch the Terrifier? Here's a gun so you can blow your brains out. You'll thank me for it." That's my rant on the Terrifier.
But the only difference is Art the Clown didn't sell shower curtain rings.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the only
Little
difference. All right,
planes, trains, and automobiles for those who didn't pick it up.
let me do a more legitimate setup then.
All right.
Okay. All right. So Terrifier, directed, written, edited, special effects, the
Paid
makeup.
for by.
No,
Well,
but not really. No. But we'll get into that.
okay.
So Damien Leone directed, wrote it, edited, like I said, special effects, all that stuff. He's from Staten Island. He's a Staten Island guy.
Mhm.
The film's about an hour and 25 minutes, give or take, right? And it now the film goes back, like the idea for the film goes back, right? Can you kind of just tell a little the sort of history of how we got
Yeah.
to this point?
Well, there was a film that he did called All Hallows Eve,
Hmm.
where I think we were introduced to this character. And he admittedly says he just threw stuff against the wall to see what would stick. And what stuck was Art the Clown, played
Right.
played by a different actor, by the way.
Yeah.
And then they made a short, like a 10-minute short, which you can find
Hmm.
on almost every, because it's part of the public domain. So you can find this on almost every streamer. And it
Hmm.
does make a difference. We'll get to that. But it's basically a psychotic clown, but we have no backstory. And I went and I pulled up All Hallows Eve, and I couldn't watch it, but I scanned through to see if I could find Art the Clown, and I couldn't.
Mm.
But I did find the short, and I saw the other guy, which was slightly different looking.
Yeah.
Um, the makeup of Art the Clown was great,
Hmm.
but that's about where the superlatives stop for me.
Yeah. Well, okay. Let me continue on a little bit just to sort of give the credits. The cast, Jenna Cannell. Hopefully I'm saying Jenna's name correctly. She
She's a
plays a
she's a certified bad too.
She is, yeah, if you read her bio, yeah,
Yeah.
and see the things that she's been in and things she's done.
Mhm.
She plays a character called Tara, and then Samantha Scavidi, who is going to be at Spooky Empire 2024, as
Mhm.
is the Oh Brother podcast. So maybe
Come and
we'll
see us.
rub some elbows with Samantha. She plays Victoria, who is a prominent figure throughout the franchise now. She's in the
Right,
sixth
she's in
sequel.
2, and
She's
then
gonna be in the third one.
which is coming.
As
What?
of this recording, it's gonna be out on the 11th of October,
Okay.
2024 is when the third one drops. David Howard Thornton now plays Art, as you mentioned in those shorts. It was another actor. Catherine Corcoran plays Dawn, and then Katie McGuire has a role as a TV anchor
Right.
named
That's
Monica
how
Brown.
that's how it opens.
It's kind of, yeah, it's in some ways it's almost like bookended
Correct. It
relative
opens
to
with the
that.
with the ending, but you don't
Right.
really know that until you
Correct.
watch it.
Correct. So that's the main cast. There's a lot of other players there. The music is by Paul Wiley. He also does the music in the second. I assume he's going to be back to do the music for the third, the score. And as you mentioned, some of the history. So Damien gets this shown at Telluride as a festival in 2016.
The
And
in
that's,
its full version?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
Because soon after that, I mean, I think it takes another year or so probably to find someone to pick it up, but eventually Dread Central steps in and Epic Pictures, and
Mhm.
we've had several folks on the show, associated with those companies. They pick it up, and it goes from Dread and Epic. Then that gets it onto Netflix. So that's really where this spins up into becoming what it is considered a cult classic film now within the horror genre.
Right,
For
and
sure.
I'm not sure why,
Well,
uh
listen, you gotta look at the box office. This thing has a budget of like 35 to 50 grand, somewhere in there,
yeah, you can
right?
tell.
He was trying to raise the money initially by one of these, internet
Kickstarters.
kit like a kit like Indiegogo, I think was the one
Yes.
that he was using. That didn't really pan out, but there's this guy, Phil Falcone, who's a
Mhm,
producer on the film, who steps in, had worked with him on a film that he worked on called Joe's War, I think,
mhm.
and says it wants to work with Damien because he sees something in him. He sees something creative in him that he thinks is worth investing in. He brings forward a chunk of money, and that sort of helps get the ball rolling.
Yeah,
But again, I said a budget of like around 50 grand or somewhere in there.
and you can
It
tell.
it makes over $400,000. It's
Right.
it's made. And the second one was a more of a critical success. And
Right.
you can the budget on that's about 250,000. It's
It
made like $15 million. That's a hit, folks.
right, that's how these movies get made. It made money. That's all the producers wanna know,
Correct.
and
Correct.
they'll invest, and I don't know, how much did you watch prior and after? Did you watch Terrifier 2
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
because you can tell right at the beginning, they start right where they left off, but which
Right.
we always like. We always like when
Mhm.
a sequel
Like
starts, like,
Halloween.
right on the money,
Right.
and you can tell the budget was bigger in the
Mhm.
second one, but
You
as
could.
soon as I saw the little girl clown that was like a figment of his imagination,
Right.
I tapped out at that point,
You tapped out. You didn't
and
even
that's
watch
5
it?
minutes in.
You didn't watch it.
I couldn't keep
Okay.
going.
All right, that's unfortunate. Um, that's unfortunate, I would say. But the, you know, it doesn't really end up getting released here until 2018. So it's just seems like this long
Yeah,
journey
the
that he's taken
dates
to
are
get
really
there.
wacky when you
Yeah,
look at it, and I'm like,
right,
"Okay, why is that dated before this?" and et
right,
cetera, et cetera.
right.
Now, where did you watch the first one?
So the first one, I watched it on Pluto,
Okay.
the Pluto
S
app.
so I do a search and it comes up on Peacock. So if you have Peacock, you can get it, but with a caveat, 10 minutes of undubbed vocal work, like, it was just a hair off,
Mm,
what they spoke, and it was driving me nuts. I
hmm,
don't think I would have made the whole it was a short film, I don't think I would have made it.
yeah.
So then I did another search and some random, Freevee, XV, whatever. It's in a lot of free
Yeah.
online
Right.
sites.
Right.
It came up and the audio was fine.
Yeah.
So, thankfully, so if you notice that and if that bothers you, it's streaming on multiple
Well, like I
platforms.
said, I got it on Pluto. You can get it right there, and it was
Right,
fine. And then the second, you can get the sequel on Prime.
on
That's on
Prime, if you
Prime.
have
Yeah.
Amazon Prime.
And it looks good. It looks good on Prime. You can tell with the sequel immediately, like you said, that it's a bigger budget.
Yes.
It's very obvious to
The the
tell.
the the opening shot was much clearer, and you
Yeah,
could tell it was, filmed with probably something other than a handy cam.
it's too bad that you didn't stick it out for the sequel because Chris Jericho
I
shows up,
saw his name in All Hallows Eve.
and he's going to be in the third one.
Yeah, so I
Yeah, he's going
think
to be in the
he
third one.
goes back to before it was Terrifier.
No, I didn't realize he was in the short. I didn't realize that, or the that was like an anthology, right? The All Hallows Eve was really like three shorts, I think.
Yeah, ninth
Yeah,
something, the ninth something, I didn't
the
really
Ninth Circle, the Ninth
yes.
Circle. Yeah, yeah,
So
right.
this character was in that as well.
But I thought, look, I'm not going to sit up here and say this is, Citizen Kane or whatever, right? It's not intended to be, but I find it to be, to me, it's like the Clerks of horror. It's like the Clerks of horror. I mean, I really respect how he got this film made. It's a great story, right? The kid,
That's
like
fine.
his, if you look at interviews and kind of go back and look at his background a little bit and see his fascination as a young kid. First of all, he was introduced to horror films at probably too early an age, as was I. But he also had a fascination with all films. He likes all genres. And then he gets
I
this inspiration from Tom Savini, one of the well-known makeup artists,
Mhm.
and he was a creative kid from an early age, and he really starts dabbling in that, which you can see his skill. You can't deny the effects on a film with such a low budget. I was very impressed, even though it was completely disgusting
It
and
was
gross.
disgusting.
It was gross, but
I
that's
think
what you
to a
want in
point
this film.
yeah, but see, like, when I see something I remember when I was a kid in high school and Scanners came out and the guy's head explodes. I can remember, like, laughing, like,
Not in this one.
when it goes over the top, I almost find it humorous.
But
But
that's
this
yeah.
was just so disgusting,
That's a
and
certain people have a certain appetite for that within the horror genre, the blood
I
and
I
guts.
think yeah,
The
but
blood
see
and guts. Oh, go look at a lot of your Friday the 13th in that box set you
oh,
have.
I'm with you. I'm
Even Halloween.
down with blood and guts. I'm okay
Right.
with that. But this was so at one point he saws a girl in half, and I'll just say this.
Wow.
It's not like a magician.
Wow. First of all, okay, hold on a second. Now, I don't get creeped out by much.
Yeah.
Very few films have ever, like, disturbed me. Wrong Turn was one of those films. I always bring
Right,
that up.
which I've never seen.
The original Wrong Turn, I left the theater, like, literally disturbed by watching that film. Same thing with this one, because of the realism of those special effects. I mean, it is one of the goriest. I couldn't even believe. Now, Mike, what does unrated mean? I should know this in this world, but
Well,
I, to some degree, I'm like, is this not an X film? It's like
yeah, or
it's super intense.
NC-17 to be,
Something certainly
politically
are
correct, but
right.
I don't know how this doesn't get an X rating
I don't know
with
because
that
that saw
sequence alone.
again. Spoiler alert, but it is so graphic, like
And,
beyond graphic.
when I teach film,
Mhm,
and you know this 'cause I've taught it to you about, the movie Cape Fear. I always use that as an example. The original Cape Fear with Robert Mitchum and the remake with Robert De Niro.
mhm,
In the original, it's left to our imagination. This guy's doing bad things, but you don't see them. In
mhm.
the sequel, De Niro literally, uh, bites the face off of a woman, and it's just so gory. It wasn't necessary. You
Right,
could have
right.
achieved the same thing watching him
But
go at,
that's not a horror film. That's a psychological drama. You know what I mean? It's not a horror film. So within this genre, this is the baseline. This is the baseline, you
I
know?
mean,
But you're right. Again, there's different that's the beauty for people that want to go all in with this kind of thing. You have it in
but
Terrifier.
here's the problem. There's
Yeah.
0 story. Who's Art the Clown? Why is he like this?
Listen, I don't
Tell
even
me
think
that.
I don't think Damien would even argue with that, right? And that's probably the one thing that it got slammed on is the story, is the
The
story.
lack
Because you're
of.
right, the lack of, right. But I don't really think, again, with the budget, I think it was more about him, even as he did to get the thing made, it was still about showcasing his ability to bring this realism to the blood and guts, which he certainly does. I mean, he's up there with like his talent in that area. You can't deny it because they don't, like you said, the example you gave where you laugh at it. I was not laughing at any of
No.
this. It
No,
was
and
really disturbing.
in the scene in the pizzeria, I don't
Absolutely.
need to see the guy cleaning up after Art the Clown.
Hey everyone, if you love movies, hit that subscribe button and join us for more amazing episodes on the Oh Brother podcast.
Don't miss out.
And don't forget to leave a comment and share with your friends. Oh, that was
That
rough.
was almost the tap out moment for me,
That was
you
rough.
know?
That was rough.
And then the little girl, same scenario, and I
Same, right, in
thought
the sequel.
the
Yeah.
reason I put on Terrifier 2 after being horrified for 90 minutes was I wanted to see if he was gonna tell the backstory
But that's
of
what
Art
he
the Clown, but
but this
he
is
just
but
ignored it.
but your initial reaction is all you're supposed to be getting out of this film. That's it.
Maybe.
That's it. That's it. Now, if you watch the sequel, if you had hung with the sequel, you would have gotten more of that with the sequel, but you tapped out. So,
Well,
but this has, to me, to give some credit, it does have a lot of the kind of tropes and the things that you look for in a horror film. I mean, in fact, right from the beginning, you got the two young, attractive women,
mhm,
very reminded me very much of PJ Souls and Jamie Lee Curtis and
mhm.
that whole crew from
And
the
even the
original
character,
Halloween.
Art the Clown, you can look at Michael Myers and do like, they don't speak, they don't
Yes.
scream, they
Well,
don't
they're both supernatural figures.
Right, Right,
you know?
somehow they survive
But I
no
thought
matter what you
he
do to them.
again, on this budget, you gotta keep that in mind, what he was able to do. I don't know when it was shot. I forget, like, what time of year, if it was in the fall or whatever, but it certainly looked like it.
Mhm.
I thought the directing was pretty good, and it was good. I thought there was a good building of tension throughout. I liked the score that, let's say Paul Wiley? Yeah, Paul Wiley did. It was very reminiscent of
But
an '80s horror film like Halloween,
it
I
it's so hard to get there with the gore and how disgusting it is. I agree with you. I
yeah, you're
can
not.
tell this was directed by somebody that knew how to direct.
Mhm.
I could tell, but I
Yeah.
didn't care. I wanted something more in the story
It's
to
Mike
engage me for 90 minutes.
Art the Clown, the early years. I mean, like, what kind of story do you want exactly? Again, you get it in the sequel. I
Well,
think
look
that's
at
just
Michael Myers. We
I
get a
know, but
whole thing from him as a little kid
that's
to where
that's
he's
a
a
fair
monster.
that's a fair point, and John Carpenter didn't have any more money than Damien did to
Or
make that film.
Pennywise, right? There's a good
Yeah,
example of a clown,
sure.
but really almost the opposite of this
I
clown
I
'cause he
I agree with
talks
that.
and
I agree with that. I think it would leave you less wondering throughout the whole film, like, "What? What?" All these
and
questions that are surfacing.
and they're not questions, like, that are good. They're questions, like, basic. Okay,
Sure.
why? Why does a victim of his become a killer?
Or
Like,
who
why
is
is that
he?
all of a sudden
Where
a
did he
thing?
come from? Why is he doing this?
Exactly.
All of that sort of
All that's
stuff.
all I
Yeah.
wanted was answers
Right.
to those questions, and I
Right.
specifically put on Terrifier 2 to see if I
Mhm.
would get any responses, and I thought it was pretty clear from the jump I wasn't.
Well, you don't about Art the Clown. No, you don't.
I
But there
didn't
is
think
a
so.
story. But there's a story there. There is a story there.
Okay.
Um, Now this is to me, it's like a mix of Leatherface, Jigsaw, Michael Myers. It's a little bit of everything within the genre, I feel like.
Yeah.
Rotten Tomatoes, it's pretty even. It's 57% from the critics, 53% from the audience.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I think for the same reasons that I'm putting out there. They do again, it's the story is what kills it, right?
Right.
But the rest of it,
But
you
to
know,
get to 57, wow.
yeah,
What's IMDb?
that's an F. That's an F. So what do you
Okay.
want? IMDb 5.6 out of 10.
That's way high.
It's not way
Way
high. It
high.
is not way
I mean,
high.
I
Relax.
rated Furiosa lower than that.
You want to hear the Terrifier 2 numbers?
Yeah,
Rotten
I guess.
Tomato,
And again,
80
Rotten Tomato, I don't have a
it
lot of respect
but
for.
it's a 57.53. Sequel, 86.80.
Wow. Who the
Sh
hell is
You
giving
can't
those
you can't comment. You
scores?
didn't watch it, so
I'm
you can't comment.
stunned. I'm
You can't
stunned.
comment.
Yeah, but I'm stunned from the original numbers.
I'm not. I'm not. I'm not. Because again, all the things that I pointed out, the music, the kind of acting, the casting, of course it's a low budget film and it looks like a low budget
Right.
film for the most part.
But
But
so was Halloween,
but
right?
I'm amazed at what he was able to do with the effects, the score, even the acting and the cast. Again, considering the money, I don't know. I'm pretty impressed by that. And
The
he
the
did all of
one
this himself.
the one actor
Pretty
you
impressive.
mentioned, and I said she's a real bad Jen something?
Jenna Cannell.
I thought she was a legit character.
Yeah.
She was, a legit actor. Beyond that,
I
I
thought her
wasn't
friend, Catherine Corcoran's character, Dawn, was too.
she
And
was
Samantha
okay.
Scavidi. Samantha Scavidi as Victoria. She was good too.
Right, and
She wasn't
it's relatively small in the first film.
and he has since said he regrets not fleshing that character out more in the first film, which I think
Mhm.
is why he's now probably paying a little bit more attention to her in the
In
sequel
the
and the
in the
third
one
one.
coming, yeah.
Well, and in the sequel. She's in the sequel as well.
Right. Is the third one going to a theater?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Well, and listen, people can't wait to get their tickets for this. This
Who are
is
you
in the horror
recommending this
world.
to? Who are you recommending
Horror
this to?
fans, horror fans.
Yeah, but see, I can't even say that. This is
I can.
gore. This isn't horror.
Yeah,
This is
yeah,
gore.
right. I mean, that's horror, dude. Blood and guts. That's
Yeah, but
horror.
we talked about Jaws,
But
right?
d
You don't put this in the
but we
same league.
but we you and I both stated on that episode, it's not a horror film. It's a psychological thriller.
I agree,
That's where we stand. So I wouldn't even use give
well,
me another
compared
example. Give me another example.
Halloween, because Halloween was a very low budget for a long time. Halloween was the biggest, the most successful independent film of all time until, something recently.
It's a good point, and I think again, what I would say is it's like a subgenre, right? The blood and guts and gore within horror. With Halloween, you've got more, at least from the original, even well, the original, I would say, because that was more like Jaws, where it's a psychological
Yeah.
thriller. The
You
second
don't
one,
see a lot of killing.
the second one is very graphic.
Mhm.
It's very different from the first one.
But not graphic to
But yet
this extent.
It's pretty close. There's a scene, if you recall, in Halloween 2, you got the poster behind you
Right.
where he melts the girl's face off in the sauna.
Right.
That's very graphic.
To
Very
me,
graphic.
that's tame because I'm probably looking at her chest more than anything as a kid watching
Probably. Which you get that in this too, but
Right, but not in
yeah,
a good way.
not in a good way. No. Good Lord. Wow.
And
I mean,
again, I
whew,
think that sequence that we're referring to,
I
you
called it
could
the curtain reveal is what I called it.
yeah, you could have terrified me with just showing him with the saw. And you would have been able to cut away,
Yeah.
and I would have been like, "That's horrifying."
But I think
But to show it
but I think that's it. But did you believe that was happening as you're watching it? You kind of did. You kind of did. You suspended your disbelief, and you for a moment you were like, "Oh my!" You cringed, right? Because it's believable, because of how good the effects are. Again, I'm just trying to give. Not arguing this is
right,
right, Godfather 2 or whatever, but
right.
but
I'm just
but I want to give Leone credit for where it's due. I think.
other than you, I'm not sure I would be comfortable sitting watching this with anyone else.
Well, certainly not mom.
No, or anybody. I can't imagine sitting with
I would
anyone.
absolutely hanging out with, a crew or
I
your
could I could do it
girlfriend
with
or your
you, but,
boyfriend or
not your girlfriend, no way.
yeah, you wherever your partner, why not? What if they're a big horror fan? You're assuming they're not into this.
Again, this really isn't horror, this is gore. This is just
It's horror.
gore.
Well, hold on, let me check. Let me see what it's billed at. Okay, it is classified as okay. Here we go, folks. And the folks watching that are horror fans know this. Slasher horror. Okay? Slasher horror.
I
Splatter horror, if you will.
Right.
Right? That's,
I'm
again,
usually bemused
it's
by
a
those,
subgenre of horror.
and
That's all I'm saying.
not only the gore, but just the nastiness, like that bathroom sequence. That's all I have to say, and people
I'm
can
with you
probably
there.
conjure up
I'm with
what
you.
what I saw.
I
I
don't
cannot
need
see that.
I don't need to see the guy on janitorial duty.
No.
No pun
Complaining
intended.
about double time, and
It was brutal. It was brutal.
that was another thing, that the pizza owner that became a jack-o'-lantern
Oh,
kinda looks stupid.
I didn't think so.
I think that was one of the weaker effects,
Okay. All right.
but
Mike
I
with
didn't
one
like it.
throwaway criticism at the
I
end,
didn't like it at all. I
You've already
mean,
shit on the film, but well, we're split here because this is and I will say, not easily, okay, but I could see going back to this some Halloween night and putting it on if I really wanna be creeped out, if I really wanna be creeped out, you
where
know?
did this, film come from for Halloween Fest? Like, how did we come up with this?
It's a number of reasons. One, not the least of which is not that the the third one's coming out this month,
Right. Yeah,
right?
so it's
So
relevant for because there are fans. It made, like you
and
said, it made $15 million.
and as we can put up on the screen here, when we were at Spooky Empire in Orlando last year, 2023, there was a bunch of cosplayers as Art the
Yeah,
Clown, and now I look back and I remember the
I
guy was pushing
don't.
the cart. He was pushing the girl that was split in half.
See, I don't
You don't
remember it.
remember that? Every time he went by, I was like, "What in the," like, it was nasty just to see, but I didn't have the context.
Right.
Now I have the context. It's even worse now,
Right. When I
you know?
when we go in a couple of
Oh,
weeks,
there'll be plenty of
I'll
Art the
be looking
Clowns
for
there.
that because
Oh,
I
yeah.
I would think, like, Art the Clown
But now
is
folks,
scary looking.
mark my words, you are going to see a photo of Mike and Art the Clown post Spooky Empire appearance.
I
But
think
it
I'll have a
is.
thumbs down.
Yeah, I agree though, Art the Clown, yeah, so there's a compliment you're giving with the makeup.
Yes, I thought this is a character that can be horrifying. But
Abs
tell me why he's like this. Where did and the
Okay,
supernatural bit of it. Tell me
go,
more about that.
why don't you, sit in and let the sequel simmer a little bit, and then you'll be ready for Terrifier 3 when it comes out, you
I
know?
don't know if I'm
But
gonna make
listen,
it. And ironically, it's gonna come out the weekend of Spooky.
that's right. We're gonna be at Spooky, and we'll probably be knee deep in Art the Clown, when that hits the
I
theaters.
would
In fact,
think
we should leave Spooky that night and go see Terrifier 3, and I guarantee there's a huge watch party already forming for that night. You know there is,
maybe, yeah.
because that is a hardcore group,
And like you
right?
said, one of the actors is gonna be there, as
Samantha
part of the
Scavidi. Yeah.
panel. So,
Well,
um,
did you think we were gonna be split on this one? No pun intended.
I I thought I thought maybe you might send me a text and say, "Let's go with
No.
Poltergeist," or
No,
"Let's
no,
go with
no.
something else."
People are gonna
So,
comment on this episode. I
the
let's hear.
fact that you stayed with it
Oh, yeah.
and I was, like,
Gladly.
ready to tap out.
No.
First,
Oh,
I had the audio issue, which annoyed me more than
sure.
anything, and
Yeah.
that was the best part of the film, was the opening with the 2
It's
young
good.
female actors.
Yeah, yeah,
So, I'm glad I went back and did a search for because I know you had said Pluto, so but I
yeah.
watched it on, like, Zemo or
But
Exmo or
I
something like
think you
that.
can give it up to, for what it took to get this made and the success that it's spawned now.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna deny a
That's pretty
movie makes
incredible.
15,000,000
15,000,000, dude.
that to me is almost unwatchable.
It's very impressive, very impressive. I wished he was gonna be at Spooky because I definitely, wanna chat it up with
And
Damien.
I mentioned The Jester to you when I first saw Art the Clown. It kinda conjured up images, which is a film we watched. We didn't review it, but we watched it because we had talked to the director
Colin
and
Krawchuk, yeah, and
one of the young actors,
Mary
Mary
Jane
Jane.
Pentney, a little shout out to Mary Jane and
I
Colin,
hope
yeah.
she's still, acting.
Yeah, oh, yeah, and it was so amazing to be at Spooky Empire last year, and the Jester showed like, that was the last character I thought we would see at Spooky. It wasn't a household name at that point,
No, and you could
so
tell when we recognized him, he got really excited. He was like, "Somebody
right.
knows the character."
Yeah,
And
we
we
got a
had just
photo,
watched it.
got a nice photo with the Jester at Spooky Empire, so, listen, I for what it is, I thought it was decent. Again, the Clerks of Horror, and it's funny enough, there's you can see a cast, a panel interview that, your buddy Kevin Smith actually moderates
Mhm.
with Damien and Phil Falcone and the
Really?
cast. Absolutely, and he
Wow.
gives major kudos. Kevin Smith came from the same world. In fact, Kevin says he was big into special effects. He just didn't have the talent for that, so he went down another road, but there was a lot in common that they have with each other.
Well, the
That's why I
big
mentioned
difference
it.
is storytelling. Kevin
Sure,
Smith
sure.
knows how to
But
tell a
again,
story.
Kevin's not telling horror stories, you know? And I agree with you. I'm with you there, but I feel like I get that in the sequel, and I'm assuming I'll get it in the third one. I'm not saying you're going to get fulfillment on the backstory of Art the Clown and this, that, and the other thing,
Mhm.
but there is a story to be told there.
I'm
So
surprised you kept going after the laundromat scene
yeah, yeah,
because I
yeah.
was that
I'm
was
just in.
it.
I was intrigued because of the success,
And
and
then
so I wanted to see what it was all about.
when I put on All Hallows Eve, I just kinda skimmed it
Hmm.
because I wanted to see the character, and if he was in it, he looked
Yeah,
way different because I didn't find him.
yeah,
But I did see Chris Jericho, who's a wrestler, because we mentioned him earlier,
right.
and he's done some acting in the past on low budget stuff.
Well, there you go. Split decision to kick off the Halloween
Yeah,
Fest for 2024. The original Terrifier
I'm
by
excited for what's ahead and
no
can't wait
spoilers.
for a couple
No
of them.
spoilers. Yeah. Yeah, we got a good lineup. We got a good lineup coming at you. But I thought, let's really lean into horror. And that's why I wanted to kick off with this one. It was another reason. Plus, I know some of our production team are fans of this franchise.
Right,
We did um we did a first look on the third one, which will be coming out subsequent to this episode.
okay.
Um, but yeah, listen, I got to give my props to Damian Leone for getting this done and having it launch this now successful franchise. I mean, he's not going to stop at 3. Like you said, if it keeps making money,
Right, that's
all
gonna
that
be
matters.
the key, like,
Right.
this is probably the first box office release, right?
Mhm.
So, if it does
Well,
anything.
no. The second one
The
was in
second
theaters.
one was in the
It
box
was in theaters.
office?
Now, the second one was plagued by COVID. The second one, I think, should have come out a couple years before it did. It ended up coming out in 2022. But people wanted it. They were ready for Art the Clown. So, because that one,
Yeah,
like you said, 15 million. There you
right,
go.
and there's a reason these get made. There's an
Yeah.
audience,
Yep.
not me, and I'm not gonna recommend it,
All
but
right. I'm gonna give it my recommends for you, splatter horror fans. Now, if you've seen it, drop some comments in the video, educate Mike a little bit, or if you agree with Mike, same
right,
thing. Just want to hear
right,
your feedback on it.
right.
But I,
If you watch this, if you can get through a half hour, let me
yeah,
know.
I think more people would side with me than you on this one, personally.
I
You
wouldn't
know,
be surprised because horror
don't
and
be such a buzzkill on Halloween Fest.
well,
Jeez,
I'm not on Halloween Fest, just this
just this
particular
film. Yeah, yeah,
movie, and I know there's big fans out there, so
yeah.
horror fans are some of the most dedicated.
I'm a new Terrifier fan. Now I'm really excited to see Art the Clown at Spooky Empire. We'll have the
If you're a
same
horror
effect.
fan, you gotta like it after Dan's
You have to. Yeah.
rave review.
I'm giving it a thumbs up, so let's you give it a thumbs up as well. But it's going to do it for another episode of the Yo Brother Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Smith. Alongside me, as always, my brother from the same mother, Mike Smith, and we will see you next time.
Bye, everyone.